Welcome back to the garage. It's time for another episode of the Token Teardown. And if you're new here, this is where we roll a crypto project into the bay, lift it up, and find out whether it's running real horsepower or just pretending to be fast. Today, we're bringing a familiar machine back into the shop. This is our second time diving into Arbitrum, ticker ARB. We've had this thing on the dyno before, but the Layer 2 racetrack has changed. New competitors, new upgrades, new pressure on the lane. So it's time to see if Arbitrum can still hold its position at the front of the pack. Before we fire it up, hit subscribe, share this with your fellow degens, and send it to your uncle everybody calls crazy, the one who's been predicting XRP at $589 since forever. We all have that uncle. Every time you think about selling, his voice pops into your head. So just in case, you keep holding. Now let's get into it. I know exactly why you're here. You want the press predictions. You want to know if ARB is still worth keeping in your bag. You want to know if this machine still belongs in your lineup or if it's time to switch lanes and chase something faster. And yes, we're going to answer all of that. But this teardown is different from the first one. We're not just putting Arbitrum on the dyno today. We're lining up every major Layer 2 on the track, side by side. And running a real race? No hype, no theory, just performance. And before we start that race, you need to understand exactly what kind of machine Arbitrum actually is. This isn't a fragile prototype. It isn't a one-lap wonder. Arbitrum is built for grip, control, and stability under pressure. The kind of build that stays fast even when the track gets rough. So the real question is simple. Can Arbitrum still run at the front of the pack? Or has another Layer 2 built something faster? Strap in, strap down. The teardown starts now. Before we open the hood on Arbitrum, you need to understand the people who built it. Because no matter how good a machine looks on the outside, the truth always comes down to who engineered it. A real race car isn't built by dreamers in a backyard shed. It's built by people who know pressure, who know complexity, and who know exactly how to keep a system alive when everything is on the line. Arbitrum has that kind of tit crew. Let's start with Ed Felton. This is not some hobby engineer. This man worked inside the White House as the Deputy United States Chief Technology Officer. He advised the president. He dealt with national-scale systems, cybersecurity, digital infrastructure, and problems where failure was not an option. He builds technology that must stay up even when the world is on fire. Now, he brings that same standard to Arbitrum. Coders know what that means. PCs bottlenecks and breakpoints long before they happen. For everyone else watching, Ed makes systems that don't fall apart. Next, you have Stephen Goldfeder, one of the strongest cryptography minds in the entire industry. He co-authored one of the most respected textbooks in modern crypto. He understands the math behind digital signatures, proofs, verification, and everything that keeps your transactions honest. Stephen doesn't just write code. He writes correctness. He engineered the logic that keeps Arbitrum's off-chain execution and on-chain verification perfectly aligned. If your transaction behaves the way it's supposed to, Stephen is a big part of the reason. And then there's Harry Kalogner, the performance architect, the speed specialist, the engineer who is never satisfied with good enough. If the system is fast, he makes it faster. If the pipeline is clean, he makes it cleaner. He works on throughput, latency, compression, sequencing, execution flow, memory layout, everything that determines whether Arbitrum runs smoothly during the busiest times. If Arbitrum feels stable and quick under load, that's Harry's work. Behind these three is a deep bench of serious engineers, protocol engineers tracking every Ethereum upgrade, security researchers running adversarial tests, compiler specialists building stylus, infrastructure teams maintaining uptime and sequencer reliability, and rollup architects helping teams launch orbit chains. This isn't a hype squad. This isn't a marketing department. This is an engineering division. The kind of people who build systems the same way race teams build engines. Precision, discipline, and zero tolerance for sloppy work. Now that you know who built this thing, let's talk about what it actually is. Arbitrum is a Layer 2 built on top of Ethereum. Ethereum is powerful, secure, and trustworthy, but it gets crowded. At peak usage, it becomes a two-lane road at rush hour. A Layer 2 exists to fix that problem. A Layer 2 is a network that handles computation off-chain, fast and cheap, then sends the final results back to Ethereum for settlement. So you get speed without losing security. Think of Ethereum as a courthouse. Final, protected, careful, and slow. Arbitrum is the high-speed processing center outside the courthouse. It handles the work quickly, returns the stamped results, and keeps everything honest. Arbitrum uses an optimistic roll-up design. Transactions happen off-chain, get batched together, compressed, and posted to Ethereum. Fraud proofs challenge incorrect results. Nitro uses WASM for faster execution and keeps full EVM equivalence, so Solidity contracts behave exactly as expected. In simple terms, Arbitrum is the faster highway sitting above Ethereum's original road. It moves traffic quickly, cheaply, and reliably. It's built for traders who need speed, DeFi protocols that need capacity, and developers who need flexibility through Orbit and Stylus. Arbitrum exists because Ethereum can't scale by itself fast enough for global demand. Arbitrum is the upgraded gearbox that finally lets Ethereum run at the speed people expect. Now that you understand what Arbitrum is built to do, let's open the hood. Nitro is the engine, the big upgrade, the rebuild. Nitro replaces Arbitrum's old virtual machine with a WASM-based engine, WebAssembly, a high-performance execution format designed to run code near native machine speed. Nitro gives Arbitrum cleaner execution, better memory handling, tighter loops, and more predictable behavior under pressure. Nitro also enforces full EVM equivalence, the Ethereum virtual machine, so smart contracts behave exactly the same way they do on Ethereum. Developers can deploy without rewriting anything. When a user submits a transaction, Arbitrum's sequencer orders it and executes it off-chain using Nitro. The results are compressed into Cal data and posted to Ethereum Layer 1. Ethereum doesn't redo the computation. It trusts Arbitrum unless someone challenges it. That challenge triggers a fraud proof, a step-by-step replay of the disputed computation until the exact instruction is found. If Arbitrum was wrong, the batch is rejected. If the challenger was wrong, they get penalized. This hybrid design gives Arbitrum speed off-chain and honesty on-chain. Nitro is why Arbitrum feels fast, stable, and reliable even when the network is under maximum pressure. Arbitrum isn't just fast on paper, it's fast under real, ugly market conditions. During DeFi storms, liquidation cascades, yield rotations, and memcoin madness, Arbitrum holds. Nitro was the big upgrade, but not the only one. Arbitrum improved memory handling, batching logic, compression efficiency, sequencer architecture, and full compatibility with Ethereum tooling. Stylus allows Rust, C, and C++ smart contracts. Orbit lets teams build their own L3s. The roadmap focuses on decentralizing the sequencer, improving fraud proofs, expanding Stylus, and scaling Orbit chains. When sequencers decentralize, Arb becomes a yield-bearing asset. That's the big economic shift. Before we get into real-world performance, we need to understand two things that determine whether a Layer 2 has staying power: how the money works, and who is actually using the network right now. Because tokenomics is just a fancy word for how the system pays itself and keeps everyone aligned. And usage is the proof that the machine actually matters. So let's break this down clearly. Arbitrum's token, ARB, has a maximum supply of 10 billion. That's the ceiling. No secret minting. No inflation that changes overnight. Right now, just over 1 billion tokens are circulating. The rest unlocks gradually through a public, predictable schedule. RB is not used for gas. You don't spend RB to make transactions. ETH pays the fees on Arbitrum. RB's role is governance, and eventually, it becomes the economic backbone of a decentralized sequencer network. That's the part most people misunderstand. Today, ARB lets you vote on protocol changes, treasury allocations, ecosystem incentives, and upgrades. And this matters because Arbitrum has one of the largest DAO treasuries in all of crypto. Over 40% of the total supply. Control the treasury and you influence the growth of the entire ecosystem. About a quarter of ARB belongs to early contributors and investors. These tokens unlock over time. Yes, that creates sell pressure. But the schedule is slow and transparent. Now, let's talk usage, because a token with no users behind it is just decoration. Arbitrum has one of the strongest and most active user bases in the L2 world. It is in theory, it's real adoption. Some of the biggest DeFi protocols run on Arbitrum. GMX, Radiant, Pendle, Camelot, Trader Joe, Vertex, these are platforms with real volume and real liquidity, not empty shells. When traders need speed and low fees, they come here. When yield hunters look for advantage, they come here. When developers want predictable execution, they come here. And then you have Orbit. Teams can build their own chains on top of Arbitrum's tech. This expands the ecosystem far beyond a single network, and ARB sits at the center of that expansion. Stylus adds another layer, letting developers build smart contracts in Rust, C, and C++. This pulls in an entirely new class of builders who may have never considered blockchain before. Put simply, Arbitrum already has the users. It already has the liquidity. It already has the builders. It already has the infrastructure. The tokenomics are structured around long-term growth, not short-term hype. And now that you understand how the ecosystem works and how ARB fits into the machine, we can move into what matters next. How this network performs under real pressure, because the token can be clean, the tech can be brilliant, the ecosystem can be strong. But if the machine falls apart when the market hits it at full speed, none of that matters. Now that you know how the economics work and who's actually using the network, it's time to talk about the part most people skip, and the part that actually determines whether a Layer 2 can survive. Real performance. Not white paper performance, not testnet performance, real world, in the wild, market going nuts performance. Because the truth is simple. Anyone can look fast on a calm day. A real machine proves itself when the track is on fire. So how does Arbitrum behave when the volume spikes, when traders start panic clicking, when every meme coin on the planet tries to mint at the same time, and when the rest of the network starts falling apart? Arbitrum holds. It handles more daily active users than almost any other Layer 2. Transaction throughput stays high even when demand surges. Fees remain low when other networks start choking, and the sequencer maintains consistent ordering even during extreme volatility. DeFi traffic hits hard. GMX liquidations, Pendle expiries, Radiant borrowing, high-frequency swaps, and Arbitrum keeps moving. During peak market chaos, when Solana freezes, when Ethereum base fees spike, when other rollups start lagging, Arbitrum stays stable. This is the difference between a theoretical scaling solution and one that's battle-tested under real conditions. Arbitrum wasn't built to live fast. It was built to remain fast when speed matters most. But real performance isn't only speed, it's predictability. Developers will tell you, Arbitrum behaves consistently. The EVM equivalence is tight. Execution matches expectations. Slippage stays controlled. Network latency stays low. Contracts perform the same at high load as they do at low load. This consistency is why liquidity lives here, why traders trust it, why developers deploy here, why protocols migrate here from other chains. Arbitrum works when it counts. Now that we've covered performance under pressure, there's one more thing we need before we pull this machine onto the track with the rest of the field. Its weaknesses. Because every build, no matter how strong, has trade-offs, blind spots, and limitations. And if we're going to run a real race, the audience needs to see both the strengths and the vulnerabilities. Now that we've covered performance, tech, upgrades, tokenomics, and real usage, we need to talk about the part every honest teardown must include: where the machine struggles. Every build has weak points. Every engine has stress points. Every Layer 2 has trade-offs. Arbitrum is no exception. To understand the full picture, here are the pressure points that matter. First, the sequencer. Right now, it's centralized. One sequencer orders all transactions. That's great for speed, terrible for decentralization. If the sequencer goes down, the network slows. If the sequencer censors, there's no immediate alternative. This is the biggest weakness today and the clearest roadmap priority. Next, withdrawals, because Arbitrum is an optimistic rollup. Withdrawals to Ethereum require a delay. That's part of the fraud-proof window. During normal times, nobody cares. During panic, people definitely care. The solution is fast withdrawal bridges, but that introduces trust assumptions. Then there's Ethereum dependency. Every rollup relies on Ethereum Layer 1 for settlement. If Ethereum is congested, gas spikes. If gas spikes, posting batches becomes more expensive. Arbitrum still performs, but costs rise when Layer 1 gets stressed. Next, supply unlocks. A slow unlock schedule is better than a fast one, but it is still dilution. More ARB enters the market over time. Smart holders understand this dynamic and price it in. Then, the fraud-proof system. The tech is proven, but the challenge system hasn't been battle-tested against major attacks yet. It works in theory and in limited practice, but it has not been hit with a real adversarial stress event at full scale. Then you've got competitive pressure. The Layer 2 world moves fast. Base, Optimism, Starknet, zkSync, Polygon, they are all pushing new tech, new upgrades, new incentives. Arbitrum sits in the lead, but the PAP is not slow. Finally, the roadmap risk. Sequencer decentralization, stylus rollout, orbit growth. These are massive upgrades. If execution stalls, momentum shifts. None of these weaknesses kill the chain, but they shape the race. And if we're being honest in this teardown, we can't ignore them. Now that we've covered strengths, usage, performance, and weaknesses, it's finally time to bring the rest of the field onto the track. Before we drop the green light on this race, the audience needs to understand exactly who Arbitrum is lining up against, not just as blockchains, but as real machines with real personalities. Here is the lineup. Here are the cars. Here is the field. Arbitrum, the Subaru WRX STI. This is the Rally Warrior, all-wheel drive, grip in every condition, built to win when the track is covered in gravel, mud, rain, or chaos. Not the flashiest car on the grid, but the one that stays planted when everybody else is fighting for traction. The STI handles real-world punishment the same way Arbitrum handles high-volume DeFi traffic, calm, controlled, and unbothered. Base, the Corvette Z06, American muscle with a billionaire sponsor. This car launches harder than anything on the track because Coinbase pours fuel into it nonstop. Massive acceleration, insane user flow, still learning the corners, but extremely dangerous on the straightaways. If it ever gets full control, this thing becomes a real contender. Optimism, the BMW M5 competition, precision, balance, engineering discipline. This isn't the wildest car or the most experimental. It is the executive GT racer with corporate backing, a modular chassis, and predictable handling. You put your family in this car at 140 miles an hour because you trust it. The OP stack gives it structure, and everyone knows exactly how it behaves under pressure. zkSync, the Lotus Exige R-Spec featherweight, hyper-precise, built for perfect conditions. Everything is about the zero-knowledge engine under the hood, every move mathematically verified. When the road is ideal, it slices through corners like a scalpel. When the track gets ugly, volatility shows. Incredible tech, massive ceiling, but still a bit sensitive. Starknet, the Dodge Viper ACR, a raw supercar with more power than sense. Stark proofs, Cairo engine, extreme top-end performance potential. This machine can dominate a straightaway and terrify the field, but it demands respect. It is still learning how to stay stable through the full lap. If it ever becomes consistent, it will be a monster. Polygon zkEVM, the Audi R8 V10 performance, sleek, polished, corporate-backed, and engineered with serious funding. Excellent ZK technology, clean lines, and plenty of marketing horsepower. But it is still working to prove it has the ecosystem traction to compete with the top of the field. Beautiful car, needs more wins. That's the grid. 6 very different machines, 6 very different philosophies, 6 contenders ready to fight for the crown. Arbitrum is the STI, the rally car built for real conditions. Base brings raw muscle. Optimism brings discipline. zkSync brings precision. Starknet brings wild torque. Polygon zkEVM brings luxury engineering. The light is about to turn green. The field is set. 6 cars, 6 chains, 6 different ideas of what scaling should look like. Arbitrum in the Subaru WRX STI. Base in the Corvette Z06. Optimism in the BMW M5 competition. zkSync in the Lotus Exige R-Spec. Starknet in the Dodge Viper ACR. Polygon zkEVM in the Audi R8 V10 performance. They roll up to the starting line. Engines rumbling. The cold air in the garage feels like it's holding its breath. This isn't theory anymore. This is the race. The lights overhead flash red, yellow, then hold on that last frame, that silence right before everything explodes. Green. The track detonates. Base jumps out of the gate with raw power. The Z06 torque ripping through first gear like it was born for drag lanes, not corners. Coinbase flow is nitrous, and Base knows how to use it. Optimism slips cleanly into second, the M5 chassis keeping everything controlled and predictable. No drama, no wasted movement. The kind of acceleration that comes from engineering, not hype. zkSync darts between lanes. The Exige's lightweight frame dancing through tight gaps. With zero-knowledge engines fire clean, they look unbelievable. Polygon zkEVM stays in formation. The R8 gliding forward with polished efficiency. Corporate funding guarantees perfect bodywork, but the traction isn't fully there yet. Starknet roars behind them. The Viper's giant engine fighting the pavement. Tons of horsepower. Rough delivery. You can almost see Cairo pushing the limits of what this car can handle. And then there's Arbitrum. The STI doesn't explode off the line. It hooks. All-wheel drive grip, planting it into the track. No wheel spin. No sliding. Just pure traction. As the first turn comes, market volatility. Base skids a little. zkSync hesitates under unpredictable conditions. Polygon adjusts. Starknet struggles to keep its rear in check. Optimism holds the curve with quiet confidence. Arbitrum leans in and grips harder. This is the STI's territory, uneven ground, sudden spikes, chaos. When the track gets ugly, the rally car pulls ahead. Mid-race. This is where real chains survive or die. The longest stretch of the track. This is pure DeFi pressure. High-frequency swaps, liquidations, borrowing, yield rotations, bots, scripts, and traders pushing every component to its limit. Base still has speed. Optimism still has balance. zkSync shoulders the load, but feels the pressure. Polygon stays consistent, but not dominant. Starknet flashes brilliance in the straights, but struggles in the corners. Arbitrum keeps its speed. The STI absorbing every bump, every pothole, every rush of traffic without losing control. Now the final straight approaches. Liquidity, volume, real users, real builders, everything stretched to the limit. This is not a beauty contest. It's survival. Base roars. Optimism holds. zkSync keeps fighting. Starknet swings. Polygon looks steady. But Arbitrum stays planted through every part of the track. As the pack charges into the final stretch, the timing lights flick on. A shadow steps onto the track. Clipboard in one hand, charts in the other. Lulu, head of technical analysis for the garage. And if you're new, yes, she's a pig. 4 hooves, a tail, 0 patience for emotional trading. She looks at the 6 cars thundering down the straightaway and says, all right, the race is real, but none of this matters until we run the numbers for a full-scale market. She slams her clipboard on the dyno cart. The total crypto market is sitting at 3.18 trillion. Now let's see where ARB lands if this whole thing someday reaches 20 trillion. And the garage goes silent. The green light is still glowing. The race isn't over yet. The 6 cars are tearing down the straightaway, engines howling, tires screaming across the pavement. Each layer 2 fighting for position, speed, traction, control, recovery, discipline. And in the middle of all that chaos, the timing lights flip on. The garage goes quiet. Lulu steps out onto the track, clipboard tucked under one hoof, charts under the other, serious look on her face. The head of technical analysis in this shop, and yes, if you're new, she is a pig. 4 hooves, a tail, the whole farm package. She does not care about anyone's feelings. She cares about numbers. She rolls the dyno cart right up to the track, looks at the 6 layer 2 race cars charging toward the finish line, and says, let's talk reality. The entire crypto market right now is sitting at $3.18 trillion. The market pulled back. People got scared. Liquidity got tight. But the race doesn't stop because the price dipped. She taps the dyno screen. 3 lanes appear. Here's what matters, she says. What happens to ARB if crypto someday reaches $20 trillion? Lane 1, conservative. If Arbitrum simply holds the same slice of the crypto market it owns today, ARB lands between $3 and $5. No magic, no hype, just maintaining its current position. Lane 2, competitive. If Arbitrum outruns Base, Optimism, zkSync, and Polygon in adoption, and if traders keep trusting it during volatility, ARB runs to $8 to $12. She taps her hoof on the dyno cart, a sharp, confident click. That's the middle lane. Lane 3, breakout. The screen lights up like the final stage of a drag race. This is the scenario where Arbitrum becomes the dominant execution environment. She says, orbit chains everywhere. Stylus fully adopted. Sequencers decentralized. Ecosystem exploding. Massive user flow. More builders, more users, more liquidity. She looks straight at the camera. In that world, ARB doesn't chase the market. It leads it. She doesn't give a number. She doesn't need to. The implication is clear. Then she looks back at the track as the cars thunder past the final marker. The market is at 3.18 trillion. ARB is around 23 cents. People panic because a few candles pointed down. I don't care. She points at the race. Performance wins races. Consistency wins races. Engineering wins races. The ones who panic early never finish the lap. She snaps the clipboard shut. The race cars thunder across the finish line. Engines cool. The track goes quiet. This is the moment where everything gets stripped down to the truth. Base came out swinging with raw acceleration. Optimism kept its disciplined, steady line. zkSync flashed precision and potential. Starknet blasted pure horsepower in bursts. Polygon zkEVM stayed polished and controlled. But through all the chaos, the volatility, the heavy DeFi load, the crowding, the panic, the spikes, Arbitrum did exactly what the Subaru WRX STI is built to do. It held the line. No panic, no compromise. Just clean traction and disciplined stability through every part of the race. Arbitrum wasn't the loudest car on the track. It wasn't the newest. It wasn't the most experimental. But it was the most consistent when the track turned ugly. And that's what matters in the real world. Not the showroom specs, not the hype posters, not the theoretical benchmarks. Performance under pressure, that's the real metric. Lulu walks into frame. Clipboard tucked under her front leg. Charts hanging out beside. The head of technical analysis in this garage. And yes, for anyone new watching, she is a pig. 4 hooves, a tail, 0 patience for emotional trading. She steps up to the STI, sniffs the hood, and lets out one sharp snort. Her official signal that the verdict is ready. Arbitrum earns an 8.8 out of 10. A tuned, reliable, high-performance Layer 2 with real adoption. Real traction, real engineering discipline, and a real roadmap ahead. Not perfect, but proven. Not experimental, but dependable. Not hype, but solid. That completes the teardown. And if you're still here right now, watching this deep into the episode, then you're not just curious, you're in the game. The Garage just crossed 46,000 subscribers on YouTube because of people exactly like you. So here's what I want next. Drop your favorite crypto project in the comments so we can put it on the list for a future teardown. This is the Garage. This is the Token Teardown, and we'll be back with another machine, another race, another verdict. Let's get out of here. Teardown complete. So let it rip.